Today, let's talk about safe calisthenics. Now, it's very common that people want to get into the world of calisthenics. They want to work towards things like muscle ups, handstands, planches, and all the cool tricks, but maybe they've been injured in the past, maybe they're older, or maybe they're just unconditioned. But I believe anyone can train calisthenics as long as we follow a few guidelines and follow the pathway that suits our current level and our ability and our body type, our available time, and all things like that. So let's jump in with number one, know your progressions. So once we've picked the goals that we're working towards for our calisthenics, we need to know how to break the movement down. And the best way to do that is to reverse engineer it. So say I'm going for a chest to wall handstand push-up, I'm going to go backwards all the way down to a very beginner level, and then I can work back up. So we just need a first check. We can do a knee push-up, then we go to a full push-up, then we go to a dip with toe assist, then we go to a full dip, pike push-up, feet raised pike push-up, chest to wall handstand push-up. And there might even be little progressions in between each one as well. But knowing these is very, very important, and making sure that we don't have any big gaps. If we have big gaps and maybe we don't know this is where we could get hurt, or we could just get stuck. So making sure we know the line of progressions to each of the skills we're working towards is really, really important. Number two, we need to know how to create space and have room for error on all the movements that we're training. So let's use a section of that line of progression we're using for the handstand push-up on the last example. So we've got the push-up, the toe assist dip, to the dip, to the pike push-up. So if we look at a movement that we're starting to get very comfortable with, we can do lots of repetitions. We can hang out in the bottom position and I can move around. I can hang around out in the top position and I feel very strong. And I can go down very, very slowly through the movement and pause at any position. That shows that I'm in very good control through the full range of motion, the top, the bottom, and maybe slight variation. So I have different hand positions. I can elevate the hands, I can elevate the feet. I can even come off the top and go to one hand. So now that movement easily allows different variations in how my body is feeling day to day. So if I slept funny, had some inflammation in my shoulder, had an upset stomach, or just not feeling so strong today, I can still get away with doing that variation of the skill. So for the push-up, I can do 10 plus reps. I have control in the top, the bottom, and the pathway. So there's lots of space and there's lots of room for error. But let's say for the dip, I can get 3 repetitions. And then on the 4th repetition, my technique starts to go. I struggle in this position, then there's a lot less room for error. And if I'm having a bad day, I might not be able to get 1 or 2 reps here. So I would have 3 reps on a good day for the dips. I have control at the top, but I don't have very good control at the bottom or the pathway. The toe assist is a little bit better. I can get 6 repetitions and I have control at the top and the pathway, but the pike push-up, I can only get 1 repetition and I have limited control at the top, but no control on the pathway and at the bottom of the movement. So if I want to train 5 repetitions, say a 5 by 3 sets, I would be safer to train somewhere here between the push-up and the toe assist dip because I have room for error, so I have reps in reserve. Because if I'm trying to get 5 repetitions, but I can get more than that, I can get 6 or even 10 repetitions, that means I have room for error. Because if I'm not feeling 100%, I will still be able to get good technique, good control, and that's going to be a better working set. Now I could still play with these, but I could just go to very small amount of volume just to start conditioning my body towards them, but this is where the main work is going to be done. And that's staying very safe, making sure there's space and that all important room for error. Number 3, we need to be able to spot ourselves and have an exit strategy for every movement. So for each of the exercises, we need to be able to have a setup that allows full control. Now, everyone has different strength, balance, flexibility, and conditioning, and they're all dependent on the exercise that we're doing as well. Now let's look at the chest to wall handstand. I can position my hands down here, I can step up onto the wall, and I can stay in this position. Now this position is perfect for the beginner because whenever I need to, I can step back out. I don't really need to use any strength to exit. I don't need to change anything. I can easily step in and out of the position. Now it is going to be dependent on your flexibility in terms of how much space you need to get in and out, but that's a very safe way of doing it. But what I often see in a handstand class is people will go, this feels quite comfortable, I can walk in. Now they walk in closer to the wall and they go into their chest to wall handstand hold, but now as they hold here, they're zapping their strength, they're zapping their conditioning, and now their body starts to collapse. And when their body starts to collapse, now they're stuck. They actually can't walk back to that start position they initially felt strong in because they've used all their energy up, and now they start to collapse into the wall. So they're not leaving enough energy to walk back out again. So
We not only need to be able to get in and out of the position, but we need to be able to do that once we've done the hold time. So say the hold time is 20 to 30 seconds.
We need enough excess strength to be able to walk back out if we're going to walk all the way in.
So the beginner would be better off to hold in this position, build this up to 30 seconds plus, and then the next session they try and do it here, where it only demands one step to come out, or they have a nice space that allows them to step out sideways. But if they're confined and they don't have an exit strategy to get out apart from the one they came into that demands strength, they could get themselves into trouble and end up collapsing down onto the floor. Looking at the dips again, if I've got a nice setup like this where I can easily get to the floor if I get stuck and I can spot myself, that's going to allow me to go between two different variations or two of those progressions with the toe assist or the full repetitions. But if I have higher bars, I'm not going to be able to reach the floor, so I might need to put a box or step in below. If I'm learning a shoulder stand on bars and I don't have anything behind me or no one to spot me, this could end in disaster and I could fall over onto my back. So if I turn it round, put it nice and close to the wall, I then have the exit strategy. If I go over, I can just touch the wall and come back again. And I can even practice that beforehand to give myself some confidence and know how to bail if I get stuck. Now the push-up is just like the dip. As soon as these become hard, I can start to give a little bit of a knee assist on part of the movement, maybe the concentric, or as soon as I get tired, I can spot myself on all of the movement, which not only gets me more repetitions, but also keeps a good technique where I'm less likely to injure myself. Now, if there's one thing that's going to create more space in the body, make the movements easier from a technique point of view and efficiency point of view, is increasing the mobility in the body. And this is super important for the tight person and the flexible person. So the tight person needs to increase range, usable range. So we want to be able to access that, show control throughout the range as we increase it. And then the flexible person needs to fill their gaps again with usable range. They might have the range already, but it might not be usable as they might drop or fall through the space. So both of these people need to increase their mobility, which is going to make everything much easier. So being able to open and close joints through a range of motion is going to allow us to access positions and make things much easier because things aren't going to stick out so far. So the more I can make things close together, the easier it is to lift up in that position. If my legs are sticking out behind, I need to planche my shoulders really far forwards. So the tight person might need to work this range, slowly getting deeper and deeper, using different exercises to open up the adductors, the hamstrings, and then just the movement itself. The flexible person might be able to fall down here, but they can't get back up without using their hands. So it's not a usable range, it just means they're going to collapse through it. So again, that person might need to do limited range of motion or use a slight assistance just to get themselves back up again. And then over time, learn to be able to do a bigger range, but not using the hands or assistance in any way. And we need to make sure that we're being realistic with our current mobility when we're picking the exercises, again, to create that space, have that room for error. So if I'm someone that can't put their hands above their head without this happening, then I need to compensate. And the way I can create more space is instead of having the hands like this, I can just take the hands wider. So instead of having a handstand position that looks like this because I don't have the mobility, I can take the hands a little bit wider, straighten the arms, create more space, and now when I go into the position, whether it's freestanding or against the wall, there's not so much restriction, I have more room for error, I have more space, and it's much, much easier to hold. And then over time, as my mobility increases, I slowly bring the hands closer together. Here's a good mobility test you can do to see how things become much easier if you give yourself more space. Now, if I take my hands wide and take a full grip of the bar here, watch how close I can get my chest to the bar when I do a chin-up. See, I can't touch it. But if I cut the bar, put my thumb over the top like this, and bring the hands very close together, so in this position, now watch. See how much easier that is? Now I can hold with my chest against the bar. But in that wider position, and then with my thumb around the bar, it demanded more mobility to open up and get to the bar, and I couldn't do it. So for me, to get to the bar, to get full range of motion, I'm going to have to compensate a little bit, but I should also be working on that mobility to increase it so I can slowly
access that position without compensation. And this is something we should all go back and check. Doesn't matter what level we are, what age we are, what our training history is. We should check we have the foundations that create the building blocks for a lot of the exercises, because if we fill any gaps that are there, everything is going to become much easier and also much safer. So some of these you might need to work towards, but I recommend that everyone has the foundations of these or are working towards these down before they start a lot of the harder progression. So it's a good checklist to go through. So a basic squat position, both the resting squat and a squat pattern, a bend, the deadlift, a lunge pattern, it could be a step up or a walking lunge or a static lunge, a passive hang, scapular push up, active hang, hollow body hold, top of push up, bottom of push up, top support, bottom of dip, row, chin up, push up, dip, skin the cat, balance on something thin like a rail, basic brachiation, and spinal articulation. Now learn how to self-assess yourself, video yourself, or get someone to help you. Let me know if you have any questions. Remember, it's your journey. Go at your pace. Reach out if you'd like help with your training, either online coaching or via the app, and I'll speak to you in the next one.